Hello, one and all. Welcome back to another edition of Talking Football with Mike Martz and yours truly, Jim Thomas. Mike, we're last weekend of September. We're starting to get into the kind of the meat, the heart of the season, and we're seeing kind of somewhat of a sorting out process. There were some interesting games. Boy, these last couple of weeks, it's for you gamblers in the crowd. They've been big weeks for the underdogs. I think there were 6 teams that were 5.5-point favorites or greater last week, or underdogs, excuse me, that were 5.5-point underdogs or greater, and 5 of those 6 teams won. Mike, we've touched a little bit about this in previous editions, but how do you explain the kind of the unpredictability of these games here?
Well, I think first of all, it's what makes the league so interesting. I think it's one of the reasons why people follow it. I mean, the old adage has always been, on any day, anybody can beat anybody, and that's always been that case. And it's just so hard to win one game. I don't care who you are in the NFL, and teams are a lot closer than you would think in many respects. And just to change a quarterback at Carolina, for instance, just completely put them on fire. So obviously it wasn't coaching. They just needed a change there.
Yeah. So we entered the week with 9 unbeaten teams, but 4 fall by the wayside. Houston, the Chargers, New Orleans, Tampa Bay. We still have Minnesota, Pittsburgh, Seattle, KC, and Buffalo at 3-0. What's of those 5? Is there a team that's been the most impressive for you?
Buffalo. Buffalo. I think, and I've always been a big fan of Buffalo for the last 3 or 4 years anyway. And Josh right now is playing so well, and with the addition of James Cook now at running back, and the way they're willing to use him with this new coordinator as of last year, and they're really good on defense. They're not as dominant. They've lost some people on defense, but they lost a great wide receiver, but they just fill in the blanks. I think right now, if I was to pick a Super Bowl favorite, it would probably be them.
Yeah, and there isn't a quarterback playing better than Josh Allen. I know you've always been a big fan of him, but nobody's playing better than Josh Allen right now.
He looks like the best player in the league for sure.
Yeah. And they, you mentioned Stephon Diggs. They don't seem to miss him at all. It looks like they're spreading the ball out more, huh?
Yeah, and I think that's the advantage of losing a guy like that. It just forces you to incorporate a lot more of your guys, and then they get excited about it, and then they raise their level of play, So it does have a positive effect as well, or can.
And they're missing a lot of guys with injuries, but that defense keeps rolling along. Now, is there a team among these 5 unbeatens that's kind of surprised you a little bit?
Seattle probably a little bit, but I think that they're very well coached in everything that they do. I just think that there is all these teams have got, when you watch them play, they're so well schooled in everything that they're doing, whether special teams, defense, offense, and they get their guys to play at a high level continuously. They don't have those peaks and valleys, and that's a testimony to their ability as athletes, but also some great leadership in the coaching staffs.
Yeah. One of the million reasons why you should listen to Talking Football here on the Claves Online Network is, some of the gems Mike Martz drops on us from the start. You were a Sam Darnold guy from the start of the season, and I don't think there were many nationally that said, "Oh, well, yeah, boy, it's Sam Darnold. He's gonna really lead Minnesota." But 3-0, he threw 4 touchdown passes last week. It's the Vikings, boy. If you make a mistake, if you make a turnover, and they get the ball, they make you pay.
Yeah, and I think there's a great example of there are a lot more good quarterbacks than there are good positions for quarterbacks or environments. There's just not very many teams that can take a quarterback and help them develop, so to speak, and create a good atmosphere for them. And certainly at Minnesota, they do that. And there's, obviously teams like the 49ers and the Jaguars, not Jaguars, but Houston, some of those places, they know what they're doing with quarterbacks. And he was the right guy in the wrong place for a bunch of places. And finally, this is the match he was looking for.
Most notably the Jets. Now, Seattle, I haven't seen much of them, but you know, Pete Carroll's gone, but they do have a way of doing things. Can you tell, as Mike McDonald, the new coach, a young coach, has he changed much about how they go about their business?
Really, they look a little bit like they did with Pete. They are relying on I can't remember his name. A kind of a little bit of an unknown running back who's done a great job for him. And
Mm-hmm.
people just keep underestimating Geno, the quarterback. I mean, he just hasn't blinked. He just continues to play exceptionally well.
Yeah, that's another case of you mentioned quarterback being in the right fit. Apparently, that's worked out very very well for them. And yeah, they're still when I think of those Pete Carroll teams, I think a lot of about their defense, and they're kind of right where they were defensively. I think they're allowing just 14 points a game, which is pretty good. I think the running back you're thinking of, if I may pronounce this wrong, Zach Charbonnet or Charbonnet.
Cabernet, yeah.
Yeah, he had 91 yards rushing and a couple of touchdowns. Now, on the flip side of that, this past week, a lot of winless teams got off the schneid, so to speak. Only Tennessee, Cincinnati, and Jacksonville remain winless, 0-3. Indy, the LA Rams, Carolina, New York Giants, Denver, Baltimore, they all got their first wins. I think of those teams that finally won, you look at the Rams and Baltimore, they're definitely much better than 0-2 going into their third weeks, right?
Well, they are. The one that surprises me is Baltimore because they're not injured.
Right.
They're just not playing well, and which is really a big surprise. The Rams, they've got every reason not to win. I mean, they've just decimated with injuries, and yet somehow, again, in a situation like that head coach out there's got so much energy. He has such great insight into the game. He does such a great job of getting his guys in position. They win games they shouldn't win, and it's really attributed to him.
Well, that was certainly a game that fell into that category. My gosh, you can call it a collapse by San Francisco. I don't know, or just a great comeback by the Rams. What were they? They were down by 10 points, like at the 2-minute warning, rallied to win. They had a big punt return that helped set up the game-winning touchdown. That game kind of blew me away, just how the Rams came back. That kind of loss kind of be have some lingering effects for a team.
Depends on the head coach and how you deal with it.
Yeah.
If it affects you in a negative way and you end up showing it, then yeah, it can affect it because a team will take on kind of your reaction and adapt that to some extent. You have to be very careful about that. You have to go back and look at it kind of analytically and find out what happened and treat it. You fix it and you move on. But I went to a different game. I just thought they had that game won. I went back and said, what? They won? LA won. I just didn't figure there's any way San Francisco is going to lose that game, but they did.
Yeah. And it's difficult once you dig a hole to turn it around. I think of your 2002 team. Somehow you guys start out 0-5. Obviously, you had injuries, especially at the quarterback position. Somehow you got that thing back to 5-5. That's got to be one of the most difficult things to do in sports once you kind of go down that slope in the wrong direction.
Well, we did. We had both our first and second team quarterbacks were done. They went out. Jamie Martin, he went out as well with a knee injury. Our whole offensive line was decimated. I think Orlando was out as well. Yeah. Marshall was dinged. He wasn't. So to answer your question, and you just got to figure out, what you tell the guys all the time, Jim. People look at, if you're on the roster, you're not a backup. You're just a starter waiting to happen.
Right.
And that's how we used to encourage our guys. And sure enough, some of those receivers that we kind of felt were down the road, all of a sudden they're Mike Furry, some of those guys, they step up and they're catching touchdowns and third down conversions. And the offensive linemen haven't played before, playing good. And Mark Bolger, our third quarterback, hadn't taken a snap all year in practice. He goes in and just lights it up.
Yeah, went from the New Orleans practice squad to did some great things that year. You ended up the season on Monday Night Football against San Francisco with Scott Covington starting at quarterback, and Covington famously, if I recall this correct, he was calling the plays backward or messing up the plays in the huddle. And didn't you say Marshall Faulk had to help him out there?
Poor Scott. He had a pretty good practice that week, but he on the sideline. I know he didn't stutter, but he was stuttering. He's so nervous, and he couldn't. He got in the game. He said, "I got nervous Monday night and everything." That Marshall had to, in essence, correct the call in each huddle. And I'm not sure. I think he went like 0 for 15 or 0 for 11. And at halftime, Jamie said, "Listen, Coach, my knees." He said, "Just put me in." I said, "I can't put you in with a bad knee." He said, "Look, put me in the shotgun or I'll make it. I'll make it." And so Jamie goes in, and I don't know, we scored 21 points in 7 minutes or whatever it was to win the game.
Yeah, it was a nice rally. Now, among these winless teams at 0-3, Jacksonville, boy, that Monday night game, they didn't look like they had any energy. They didn't look like they had any confidence. And, you have to wonder what's going on with Trevor Lawrence. Is this just the Trevor Lawrence that we're going to see and that he's never going to break through into elite quarterback? To me, it doesn't seem like they have and they've never had a ton around him. You look at the Jaguars right now and you say, wow, who's a game breaker on offense? And I just don't see it, Mike.
Well, I think that you said it. I think that's exactly what it is. You can take a great quarterback and, they can be effective to some extent, but, there's somebody's got to be able to get the ball in the end zone. They just look a little discombobulated on offense. They're searching a little bit. Like you said, they're not playing with a whole lot of energy. I don't think it's necessarily him. He's certainly responsible to some extent, but my view of him is, you put him at San Francisco or a place like that, what's he going to be?
Right. And how about Cincinnati now? 0-3. They moved the ball pretty well, but boy, I'm not sure nobody expected them to be 0-3 here at the end of September.
Boy, that was a bad call, wasn't it? Late in the game on the no call and the pass interference.
Yes.
That was tragic, and that would have made a big difference for them. That is an arrow to the heart. But I'll tell you what, with the intensity that they played in that game,
right?
That's kind of who they are. I think you feed on that. You go back and look at how well they played all the way around in that game against a really good football team. Yeah. And you got to be encouraged by that. I know they're 0-3, but you got to be somewhat encouraged because they're healthy. Did they lose a tackle in that game? I can't remember. But anyway, they're healthy for the most part, and they're running the ball well, playing pretty good defense.
Yeah. And now Tennessee, the other 0-3 team, that quarterback Levis, I watched that game. Who they play? Was it Green Bay? Anyway, he made some good throws, but he's like a turnover machine. He threw another pick six. He's got 2 pick sixes there, and Mason Rudolph is on that roster. If you're the coach, do you think about Mason Rudolph at this point? Or Rudolph, as I recall, he played pretty well for Pittsburgh late in the season last year.
I think you have to look at it. This quarterback has made some. Sometimes it's physical, sometimes it's young, just not really knowing. Make mistakes, but this is stuff that you just look at and say, "You got to be kidding me! How can you do something so stupid? Being tackled and trying to flip the ball over there, and just stupid stuff." And at some point, he's got to eliminate that stuff, but he hasn't. For me, like I told you last week, he'd be on a Greyhound bus right now for me, and Mason Rudolph will be playing. When you put a whole team at risk just because you want to be some cowboy, no, that doesn't fly.
Yeah. Did any quarterback get to be a cowboy with you or no? Just do what he wanted.
Well, no, it's not so much that. It's just like, do your job like everybody else in the team. We don't linebackers or whatnot. They don't just blitz because they feel it. Defensive linemen, they don't stunt just because they're feeling it.
Right.
It's a disciplined game, and that's how you win because you're disciplined. You do the details well.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about the Thursday night game of last week and what you thought of Aaron Rodgers. It looks like, with Rodgers, it looks, if you're a Jets fan, I think you have hope now. They actually look competent.
It always takes in a change like that, sometimes we said this at the very beginning of the season, it'll take 3 or 4 weeks before teams kind of really develop their identity, because people don't realize that a third of your roster changes every year.
Mm-hmm.
Really a different team every year. So here they've gotten to the point where, I think they're really pretty good on offense at this point. Mm-hmm. They've taken great confidence in him, and defensively, they've always been really good.
Yeah. And he, it kind of looked like the Rodgers we know. He spreads the ball around. I was pleasantly surprised, I guess you say. He was moving around the pocket pretty well. And to me, with Rodgers, one of the things you always liked about quarterbacks was valued in quarterbacks was accuracy. And if I recall you correctly, you like that even more than arm strength. And it seems like Rodgers, he hits those guys in stride, so they get yards after the catch.
Exactly. And, it's paramount above everything. If you got a great arm strength, and there's been a whole bunch of those guys,
mm-hmm.
but you can't throw it straight, what difference does it make?
And when you say that, you remind me of Anthony Richardson of the Colts. He's got a cannon for an arm, and he makes some big plays, but boy, some of the short passes and even intermediate, he just has no touch on them.
Yeah, and that'll come back and bite him. And you have to learn the touch or have a feel for it. And some guys get better at it, but most of them, that's just who they are.
Yeah. Josh Allen was a guy who didn't have a high completion percentage in college at where'd he go? Wyoming. And then he comes to the NFL, and somehow he's very accurate now. I mean, that's pretty rare, right?
He wasn't initially, though. And I think what happens is, he's that high energy, not in your face, but he's very intense. And I think he relied on that in his size to make plays, run, do all that stuff. And they taught him the discipline of the game, and they made him, after that first year, you could see after each year, he's gotten so much better with that.
Mm. Yeah. I want to do a shout out to our St. Louis NFL Player of the Week, running back Kyron Williams, Vianney High, Notre Dame. He's not a flashy back for the LA Rams, but he had 3 touchdowns, and he gets it done. He's a guy in short yardage and the red zone you like to have, because he finds a way to get in the end zone, doesn't he?
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's a lot of those guys on rosters right now that just give them the opportunity, they can, that's what they're looking for. I mean, he's obviously a very solid player in the league.
Yeah. Travis Kelce, only 8 catches in 3 games, been targeted only 12 times. What do you see there, Mike?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's going on there. Now, he does a good job of blocking. Boy, when I watch him, the body language isn't very good. He's just not that high energy guy he's always been, It just, and I think it's a good thing that they're getting all these other guys the ball. But eventually they're going to come back to him in big games, and we'll give him the opportunity to do things he's always done, I'm sure. But, right now he just doesn't look comfortable.
Yeah. It looks like he's getting a little more attention by defenses, but I've seen other plays where it looks like he's wide open, and Mahomes is it seems like Rashee Rice who's playing great is kind of his number one option now. It seems like
that had to happen. And I think whether they've choreographed that consciously or not, I don't know, but I think you have to make these other guys, give them the opportunity to step up. If they don't, you can't just come out and put the ball in Kelce's hands and hope the other guys develop. It doesn't work that way. Yeah. You know what you have with him. The other guys, you got to bring their game up. And the only way that's going to happen is by getting them involved.
Yeah. Rice certainly has been a difference maker. We're going to be back after this break with my favorite segment. We're going to ask Mike.
Munganat St. Louis Acura has the all-electric Acura ZDX. The ZDX can go up to 313 miles on a single charge, and the DC fast charging lets the ZDX gain up to 80 miles in just 10 minutes. When you lease an Acura ZDX, you can save up to $7,500 with a federal EV lease credit. Or you can buy the new ZDX and get 0.9% for up to 72 months. Come on in to Munganast St. Louis Acura and take a look at the new ZDX for yourself.
You can ask Mike by contacting me. My email, jtom72@outlook.com, or just reply to me on email. We've gotten some interesting questions this week. We haven't heard from some of our regulars. I know we heard from Marissa in DC in week 1, but I'm wondering about Chris from Syracuse. We haven't heard from him yet. He's a big Philadelphia Eagles fan. He thought Mike was too tough on the Eagles last year. And this was before even they go 1 out of their last 10 or something to end the season. But anyway, we'll start with Bob in St. Louis. And Bob in St. Louis says, while realizing we're just 3 games into the season, which rookie quarterback do you have the most faith in to turn around a franchise? And there's some other rookie quarterbacks that have played, but he's thinking specifically of Jaden Daniels or Caleb Williams.
Well, I think they're both going to be really good players in the league. I'm a big fan of Caleb Williams. I think the environment is totally different in both places. I think obviously Jaden Daniels right now is on fire. If you watch him play in this last game, and is the quickness of the read and react kind of deal, getting the ball out quick, very accurate, takes off with the ball when he has to, slides, does all those things. I thought he was excellent in that game. He had a perfect game. Caleb, by the end of the season, if he lives to the end of the season, he had to get the red badge of courage just to survive that mess that's in Chicago right now.
Yeah, that offensive line, basically is a train wreck. He's been sacked a zillion times already and hit. And you're right. At this pace, is he going to make it to the end of the season? The other thing, we talked about. No, go ahead, Mike.
I think by the end of the season, you'll see coaches on the sideline pleading with him to go into the game.
We talked about when they played Indy last week that Indy was last in the league in run defense, and that Chicago should run the ball, and I think they rushed for only 63 yards. You talk about missing a running back. Now it didn't happen this year. He's been gone for more than a year, but to have a guy like David Montgomery in the lineup, I mean that would help them.
That was a huge mistake, but they got Swift. They're just he might have 1 or 2 carries. There's something going on there, and I try to avoid being critical of anybody in the coaching world at all, because I know how hard it is. But there's something going on there that is just not right on offense. They just to not hand the ball off. They've got this diamond in the quarterback, and they want to feature him, but you can't. You don't have the ability to do that. You ought to be trying to win some games and run the ball and give that offensive lineman some respite. Instead of, I don't know. That's just my opinion, I guess.
Yeah. So our next question comes from Huey from Dogtown, the Dogtown area of St. Louis. And pretty basic question. He said, do you like the idea of the Monday Night Football doubleheaders? And does it bother you that both games are being played at the same time?
It does bother me. I don't like it. I hate it. I think it kind of takes the shine off the whole Monday night thing. Mm-hmm. When I was coaching, Monday Night Football was a really, 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 really big deal. Mm-hmm. It was such an honor to be on there, because most times you could be on in any season was 3. That was your limit.
Right.
And each year we got 3, and it was so much fun. It's an acknowledgement that you're playing good, right? So now it's meaningless. I mean, you haven't been on Monday night? Okay, we'll put you on Monday night. The shine for it is just off.
Yeah, and we get, and we'll talk about this in our final segment. We get another Monday night doubleheader this week. Mike, when I think of your Monday night games, the one that really comes to mind is the 2000 season opener against Denver. Paul Tagliabue, then commissioner, was in the house. It was a matchup. You talked about how it really used to shine. This was a matchup to open the season of the last 3 Super Bowl winners. You guys had won, obviously, in 99, and the Denver Broncos in 97, 98. And what a track meet that was. I mean, Denver came to play, but you guys did too. And it was just a fun game.
Yeah, well, it's fun for you to watch. It wasn't for me. I was exhausted after that game. It was Yeah, it was great. I mean, our guys really played well, and defensively at the end of the game, they were able to come up
Mhm.
and seal it. And offensively, our guys broke out and did pretty. We sputtered there. We turned the ball over like on the 4-yard line, going in after a nice drive, and then
Right.
in the fourth quarter, we threw an audible. The only audible that I've ever used ever in the NFL, and we audibled to it, and it was a hitch, and it was a pick six. So that's why we don't audible.
When you say audible, what do you mean? You were
Change the play based on the defense. I said, look, Kurt was asking about audibles. I said, well, you know what? Why don't we do this? We get in this formation. The field corner's way off. You can pitch it out to the hitch, or you can put it into the boundary. It's a quicker throw, and he throws it out to the field, and the corner just eyeballed him the whole way, and just picked it and ran it in.
Were you real nervous before that game? That was your head coaching debut there.
Very nervous, yeah. Because you remember now, I was in the booth before that all the time. I was never on the field. And my career in the NFL, to that point, I was always in the booth, everywhere I'd been. So all of a sudden, I'm on the field as not only as the head coach and the play caller, and I was concerned about how I was going to be able to do all that, and it just worked out.
Yeah. So you didn't throw up before the game like Rich Brooks used to do when he was the head coach there in 95, 96?
No. I tell you what, I'll be honest with you. I felt so good about our guys in our football team. Every team that we played, every week we lined up, I thought we'd just beat the hell out of them.
Both myself and Bernie Miklas, we have some background on this too. And talking to Mike, say at the end of game week, especially little asides with Mike. I don't think I ever talked to you before a game and where you thought, boy, I don't know how we're going to beat these guys. You were always supremely confident in your players and what you were going to do. And I think that helped the team. There was for a while where your talent was better than most everybody in the league, maybe everybody, but you made them feel like they were a lot better.
Well, that's because I believe that. And I think every one of those guys could be better than what they even think they are, and when we start playing with a lot of backups, I just tell them that if you see yourself as a backup, you ought not to be here.
Yeah.
You got your opportunity. Make do, buddy. Make some hay. Now's the time.
Yeah, and it worked out many times. I can remember Justin Watson, I believe, gaining 100 yards against the New York Jets. Last thing on this Monday night, to me, the play, if you could pick out one play that summarized the greatest show on turf, it would have been a play in that Monday night game against Denver. What did you call it? A smoke, the quick to Oz Hakeem. And remember, he's running down the field with Torrey Holt, and they're just kind of laughing, and they look like they're almost talking to each other as they're running to the end zone together.
Yeah, I can tell you what the play was on the left hash mark. I think it was like a 3rd and 3. And they were blitzing all the time. This is what they did in those days. They were a big zone dog team, which we see a team like that, we know we're going to score points.
Yeah.
So it was bunch right motion, scat right, 0-22, stop F flat.
Of course it was, yeah.
And the because it's a 6-man protection, if they bring too many guys off that side, you can't block them all. So Kurt's going to have to throw it hot in the flat.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happened. So he throws it hot in the flat, and the strong safety has got Oz one-on-one. Well, he's not going to cover him. And then Torrey on this route is coming across the field on a route. So he ends up over there by accident because his route puts him there. And then he becomes a leader down the field. And that's my all-time favorite play in football.
Very nice. Very nice. And how about Joe Roderick putting up a picture for those of you that are watching us live do this of that touchdown? Man, great work, Jojo. That was a fantastic play. Before we take another break and get into the upcoming games, I want to ask you about the Isaac Bruce Foundation dinner. You were there. I were there. That was a lot of fun, Mike, wasn't it?
It was good to see all those guys. Some of them I haven't seen really since they left the Rams and I left. So it was really a lot of fun. Yeah, there's Cam Spikes was an offensive lineman. My gosh, I hadn't seen him since he was at the Rams.
Mike, I was trying to figure out who that was, and I said, I'm very embarrassed to say this. I said, "Are you Mike Horan?" Remember the punter, and Cam Spikes laughed. So yeah, it was.
Well,
I
Mike
didn't
Ryan
know.
was there. Yeah,
Was
Mike.
he there?
Oh yeah,
Mike,
Mike. I think Mike's my age. I mean,
yeah, he's up there. I
he's
remember
in his
when
60s. He's in
he
his
was
60s.
there. He already had the receding hairline. He was like 38 years old. He shows up, and this is a story I was told. He had just had like a t-shirt and blue jeans on. A couple of the players thought he was the janitor and asked him to, "Hey, can you take care of the stretch?" And he said, "No, I'm the punter."
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Mike. Mike, I think is like 64, 65. So he was like 40 at that time. He's such a good guy. I talked to him for quite a while. I talked to him more then than I did during the season.
Yeah,
Obviously,
yeah.
I didn't have much access to him, but he's really a lot of fun to talk to. He's really a special guy.
And Mike, I saw everyone had a paddle to bid on stuff. Unfortunately, I misplaced mine and I couldn't bid on anything. But you're what's so funny?
Yeah,
You had I'm looking at, they had a artwork of Isaac Bruce, and this paddle number 248 kept going up. Mike, you dropped $5K on that artist's picture. What it was made out of broken records, like LPs, like albums, and
yeah,
it looked fantastic.
And DVDs, the disc, all that kind of
Right.
stuff. So, it was beautiful. But it was each year we try to give 5,000 to that to Isaac charity. So here was a chance to get something for it, So
yeah,
Ricky is sitting in front. He doesn't see me. He's got his paddle up, and then
Ricky Pearl. Yeah,
all these paddles keep come up. So I just held the paddle up for good. Just held it up.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was cool. So have you found a place to put it up? Is it going to be in your office where you are now?
No, it's going to be in our game room here downstairs, right off my office, so that people can see it.
Yeah, yeah, that was a fun night, and just to see so many people, Marshall Falk and Torrey Holt and Timmerman, and there were some players and coaches that couldn't make it. I think Dick Vermeil was like leading some kind of tour in Italy. Orlando Pace's kid was playing in a high school game that night and scored a touchdown. I believe he plays for St. Louis U High. And Kurt Warner, I later discovered where he was. I was told his son had a college game, and so I'm watching Army play. I'm a big Army football fan, and they're playing Rice up at Army, up at West Point. And who's the quarterback for Rice? It's E.J. Warner. Kurt's son was playing, and so he was up there. Many shots of on the telecast of Brenda and Kurt in the stands. It didn't go very well for Rice. They got beat pretty bad, but yeah, I guess other than maybe some Hall of Fame ceremonies, it's not like you get to see these guys very often, huh?
Well, it's just like everything else. When you move out of St. Louis here, you have your own families, and
right,
you start going in different directions, and you try to stay in touch. And for the most part, occasionally we do, but you just can't see them all together. You can see one occasionally during the year and whatnot, but to see them all there together, there's such a connection and love there amongst those guys. It was really pretty special.
And Joe put up a picture of you were on the air with Ricky Horton and Mike Claiborne on the radio there for their Friday night, the continuation of the old Friday night at Shannon's. But Timmerman was there, and I was stunned that, and I think Joe was too. Timmerman still has that like little flat top haircut there. That's a little odd.
Well, I told Joe, I think Adam was born with a flat top. His hair can't grow any further past the flat top.
He came out of the womb with that
haircut. It's just like it's there for good. It's just not going to change.
Yeah, yeah. And he literally, I got a big hoot out of this. He literally got off the tractor up in his farm in Cherokee, Iowa, and drove down for the thing.
Okay, let's not portray him as this kind of low-level farmer or whatever. I mean, this guy got 3 jets. So yeah, I'm
what?
Not
what? He's got jets?
Oh yeah, he was. I think he was a vice president for John Deere for a long time.
Yeah,
and he's had a lot of stock sold. That he's very wealthy, obviously, and but you would never know it meeting him, and that's just who he is, and that's what's so great about it.
Very, very humble. We'll be right back. We've gone way too long. So much fun with the Ask Mike segment, but we'll be back to look at this week's games on Talking Football with Mike and JT.
Are you ready for a challenging and rewarding career? There are quality jobs in the construction industry.
I got out of college and my career choices were very limited, and this provided me with a plan for the present and the future at the same time.
I actually have a bachelor's degree in psychology, and I was making less than I make as a first-year apprentice painter.
I didn't go to college. I have no college debt. I make more money than the majority of people I know that went to college.
Take your first step towards a rewarding career. Visit stlouispdf.org.
We're back with Mike Martz. Mike, all these underdogs winning, we took a beating last week. I went 5-5. You went 3-7. Are you about to 3 weeks in? You're going to concede to me on the Pick'em challenge here, or no?
That's why you got to stop. You can't bet with your heart. You can't. I'm not going to concede. I'm not going to concede anything.
No, just kidding. Hey, Thursday night tonight, Cowboys at New York Giants. Daniel Jones actually played pretty well for the Giants last week. The Cowboys lose a game or two, and all of a sudden the fans wonder, is he on the hot seat? This is a pretty big game for the Cowboys, nonetheless, don't you think?
Yeah, it is. I think the Cowboys win this game. I think watching them offensively, they kind of got it going again. What was broken, they fixed it. But defensively, there's just something wrong. They're better defensively than what's going on there. But Daniel Jones, the wheels on his cart, they don't have lug nuts. Those wheels are going to come off at any time. That's just who he is. And he's not capable of sustaining a streak of goodness.
So if he does it again, you'll be surprised.
I'll be very surprised. Yeah, but I think the Cowboys win this one.
No lug nuts. Mike, last year you talked about how to beat Dallas too. That they had a defense built, and I have a lot of respect for Mike Zimmer, longtime defensive coordinator. I'm sure you do too. But that you had to run the ball, and not every team can have that kind of power running game. Not every team can do that. But boy, the Ravens did, and you'd think the Giants would, but no, they no longer have Saquon Barkley. So what's that?
And the other thing is when you go back and look at New Orleans when they played them, and I really don't know how good New Orleans is, but I tell you what, they rush the football against them. They're just light guys that get up the field and try and rush the quarterback. And the whole league, by the way, has gone back to the late 1990s in terms of going back into quarterback under the center, run the football, et cetera, which is really should happen. That's football.
Yeah. And this is Mike Martz saying it, the greatest show, who once threw, 18 passes in a row against San Diego there.
But you know what, Jim? We were pragmatic in it. And there were times when we would just, like in the NFC Championship game against Philadelphia, came out and just run the ball. You have to do what's working and basically what the defense is set up to take away.
Now, speaking of the Saints, Sunday early game, the Saints 2-1 at the Falcons 1-2. I should mention first the Cowboys 6-point favorites. By the way, the Falcons in this game they're 1-2. They're 1.5 point favorites. So this is basically a toss-up game. Man, the Saints, they scored 91 points in their first two games. I jumped on the bandwagon. I'm sure a lot of people didn't. They were held at 12 points. What do you make of the Saints right now?
I think that defensively, when they did a lot against the Saints last week, that confused them somewhat. They got up the field on them, they pressured them. They couldn't get a running game going. The Saints are going to struggle if you shut down their running game because everything's centered around that first and foremost. And for them to win, they'll have to get the ball going on the ground quite a bit and then let Carr make his throws down the field. I just think the Falcons are a little bit like some of these other teams that they stub their toe for a week or so, then they find their way. And I think they're a really good team waiting to happen, and I think they get it going this week. I picked the Falcons.
Okay. Mike takes the Falcons. I'm going to take the Saints, who've won 5 out of 6 of their last 6 against the Saints. Now, Vikings at Packers. Your guy, again, the guy you were on from the start, Sam Darnold, 3-0. The Packers, I don't know. I think Malik Willis is still going to play. What have you heard anything otherwise? Could we see Jordan Love? Or
I think he's practicing this week. I don't know if he's going to play or not.
Yeah,
but I still think the Vikings beat him.
Now, you talked about coaching and fit with quarterbacks. How about this job Matt LaFleur and their offensive coaching have done with Malik Willis? I mean, he was pretty darn good last week.
Yes, he was, and just I think he's probably a good player that people don't realize how good he is. Matt obviously does, and the way you do that with young guys that haven't played, you're just very specific with them. You take a lot of the decision making away from them, and just make a good throw. And this coverage is where ball's got to go. Just make a good throw. You know, if you cover, then check it down, and just keep it simple like that, and it really kind of moves their level of play up. And I think that's kind of what they've done with him.
Yeah. And Darnold, he's gotten something just going right away with Justin Jefferson, who may be the best wide receiver on the planet. They're averaging, when they connect, like something like 20 yards a pass play, which is anytime you're above 15 yards a catch, that's pretty amazing. And we have there are a lot of kind of a running back merry-go-round last year. You know, Barkley going to the Eagles, Derrick Henry going to the Ravens. This is another one of those situations. Aaron Jones, who has used to play for the Packers, now facing his old team, and it helps to have a guy like Jones who can do a lot of things. He can catch the ball, run in your backfield.
Well, he's a physical guy too. He does, like you said, he's a multi-purpose guy. He's not that big violent runner, but he is a violent runner. He can get the ball outside. He's got the long speed. He catches the ball. Keep him healthy there for a while was tough, but I think that's a great fit for them.
Yeah. So Packers 2.5-point favorites. Mike, who do you like in this one?
I take Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah. I'm going to go with the Vikings too. They're playing great defense too, aren't they?
Yes, they are. You know, they blitz more than anybody. They know how to do it. They do a great job disguising things. It just makes life miserable. And if you're a young quarterback, Jordan Love doesn't play, even if he does play, I think it's going to be very difficult for him.
Okay, Bengals at Panthers. Bengals are just 4.5-point favorites. They're 0-3. Panthers are 1-2. That great showing by the Red Rifle, as they call him, Andy Dalton, to get the spring Carolina back to life. This is Dalton's old team. You know, they kind of moved him out to make way for Joe Burrow. But as you mentioned, since he seems to be on the cusp, they got T. Higgins back, Jamar Chase. They seem like they have him going. What are your thoughts on this one, Mike?
Yeah, I think they played so well here lately, especially in their last game. They're starting to get a little momentum. The first game, they were just awful. Of course, they had some guys out too, but I just don't really know who Carolina is, you know.
Yeah.
And I think Andy Dalton, they know Andy better than anybody's, and I think that'll hurt Andy. So I think I got to go with the Bengals here.
Yeah, same here. So Bengals over the Panthers. Eagles at Buccaneers. Both teams are 2-1. It's a rematch of a wild card game from last year that the Tampa, I guess you'd say, surprisingly won 32-9. Eagles are 2.5 favorites. Baker Mayfield wasn't at his best last week, but he's had a pretty good season. Mike, your thoughts on this one?
There's something wrong at Philadelphia. There's something wrong. I don't know what it is. Quarterback's not playing good. They're not running the ball particularly well. They're just not in sync. They just isn't the receiver out too? Isn't Brown out?
I believe so. Yeah.
So I'm going to take Tampa Bay here. There's something going on at Philadelphia that just isn't good.
Yeah. I'm going to go Tampa too. Now they've got to protect Mayfield better though. He's been sacked, I think, 12 times in his last 2 games. So although I don't think the Eagles, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think they've had a great pass rush this year so far.
They haven't had anything good just so far this year.
You keep that up, Mike. We're going to hear from Chris from Syracuse. Remember, our Eagles fan. Okay. we always got to talk about the Chiefs. They're 8.5-point favorites at the Chargers. We could see Taylor Heineke, who was once a backup, the original incarnation of the St. Louis Battlehawks. He was a backup in what was then the XFL. Both Chargers tackles, offensive tackles, could be out as well. On paper, this looks like it could be a rough day for the Chargers, but 8.5 is a lot of points.
It's not enough. Yeah, the Chiefs will go down. It's in LA. The game's in LA, isn't it?
Yes.
I don't think it makes a difference. They're so much better on defense. Talking about the Chargers, but you get a young quarterback in there that's not seen the Chiefs do all the stuff they do blitz wise on third down.
Right.
Yeah, that's not going to be good.
Taylor Heineke meets Steve Spagnuolo. I'll go with the Chiefs as well. Now, Sunday night football. This will be a good matchup. Bills 3-0 against the Ravens 1-2. I'm a little surprised by this, Michael. The Ravens are 2.5-point favorites, as well as the Bills have been playing.
Did you say this is at Baltimore?
Yes, it is at Baltimore, Sunday night football.
I'm still going to go with Buffalo. That game that they finished here the other day, this last game they played, they've been okay in the first two games, played pretty decent, but they're hitting their stride right now. Mm-hmm. And like I said, there's something going on in Baltimore that I can't put my finger on. They're just not in sync on offense. They're not playing the great defense that they have in the past.
Yeah, they lose their coordinator, right? Mike McDonald goes up to Seattle, gets them off to a 3-0 start, and it doesn't look like the same defense at all. That defense, we're used to seeing it breathe fire.
Yeah, I think, but they've got good players, and because it's the late night game and a lot of attention, et cetera, they'll play good, but they're just not making any plays on offense. They're not making anything happen.
Yeah.
And the Buffalo, I think Buffalo's on fire. Like I said, there's ever a year to get really excited about the Bills. I think it's this year.
Yeah. They are playing with tons of confidence. And now the dreaded, as Huey from Dogtown asked you about the Monday night doubleheaders, there's another one of them tonight, or Monday night, 6:30 p.m. on ESPN. Titans at Dolphins. This is based on how the team is playing. I mean, who knows how the game? This is 0-3 versus 1-2. This does not look like a matchup that everyone's salivating for. The Dolphins, boy, the air sure went out of that balloon fast, huh?
Well, yeah, until he gets hurt like that. I mean, he was such a vital role for them as we could see at Carolina. That position is so vital. I think that Tennessee wins this. Unless the quarterback goes over and hands the ball to a defender, and he can do it. Hand off to a defensive end. He'll do something stupid in this game, but I think they still overcome that and win.
Yeah, they could be down to their third string quarterback, Skylar Thompson. The Dolphins, I'm talking about. Yeah. Skylar Thompson replaced Tua, and he has some injuries, a chest injury, and he may not play. We could see Tim Boyle starting that game. But you're right about Levis, the Titans quarterback. 8 turnovers in 3 games. I'm going to have to go Titans too. Some teams, I guess it shows the importance of having a backup quarterback, but some teams seem to do okay with their starter out. Like look at the Packers with Malik Willis. But the Dolphins just can't seem to cope without Tua.
Well, Skylar won't get rid of the ball. He just sits there and holds the ball, and he needs to be replaced whether he's injured or not because he gives them no chance to win.
Yeah. Gee, Mike, I wish you'd get off the fence with some of these answers there, bud. But is that common in a younger quarterback that maybe to take longer to lock in on receivers or?
Yeah, I think a lot of that is your preparation for the young quarterback. Yet, like I said a while ago, if you're very specific and take the decision making out of them, and hey, this is where it's got to go. If he's not there, then it's got to go over here. You just quicken up the pace for them mentally and give them confidence to making those throws that But if he goes back and he's trying to judge where he's got to throw the ball, he's not going to be.
So give him quick decisions, maybe quick throws, and go to that first option.
Not so much quick decisions, just simple decisions.
Right.
On this play, the ball's got to go there, and if he's covered, then get it right there. It's that simple.
Now, one of the games of the week, maybe the game of the week, is the second Monday night game. It's on ABC, 7:15 p.m. here Central Time. Be really except for highlights, my first look at unbeaten Seattle 3-0. I'm really looking forward to see what they have. And at Detroit, one of my favorite teams to watch, in part because they have so many St. Louisans on the field. Lions are 3.5-point favorites. Lions are 2-1. They've played in 3 close games, 3 one-score games. What do you think about this one, Mike?
Well, no matter what, every week, I got to take Danny Campbell. He's my guy. He played for me. I mean, this is Detroit. I don't care. This is Detroit. That's your
team. That's your boy. Where did he play for you for? Did you say he played for you?
Detroit.
Oh, when you were in Detroit, okay. And does he still? You mentioned last year you contacted him pretty regularly, usually by text. Do you still talk to him or text him?
Last couple of years, after games, I'd text him. He'd text me back immediately, and I haven't texted him at all this year. I just really believe in what he does, how he approaches the game. They've got such good players, and he'll get them ready. I think they win the game.
Well, last week in their win, wasn't a pretty win over Arizona, but correct me if I'm wrong, but that's more kind of vintage because the 2 running backs, Gibbs and Montgomery, they combined for almost 200 yards. That's how they have to play, isn't it?
Yeah, that's how they're going to win games. That's why they have those 2, and the quarterback's playing good still. And defensively, I think they've fixed the back end. Their corners were just pitiful the last few years, and they have fixed that right now. I think they're getting better play out with some young guys back there. And yeah, I think Detroit is they'll be, when the dust settles, they'll be lingering around with the final 4 or so teams, I think.
Yeah. And the Lions, like a lot of teams, are dealing with some injuries. One of our St. Louisans, Highland, Illinois, Sam Laporta, the talented tight end, has an ankle injury. But, I like the Lions here, too. Mike, any other games you're interested in watching? Anything that comes to mind?
No, I think that's good. That does it.
Well, we'll call it a show then. Mike, thank you so much. This has been Talking Football, and we look forward to visiting with you all next week.
Nobody wants a surprise in their jelly donut. That's because the middle is the most important part. At Graybar, we're at the middle of electrical and datacom jobs across the country, connecting installers, facility managers, and business owners with smart solutions for their most challenging projects, which means stocking and delivering crucial products on time and on budget, with no surprises, thanks to our nationwide logistics network. Yep, Graybar does that.
Who's this?